Hi, beautiful friends. I'm Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, and I'm making this video for you today to share with you about my upcoming class, The Power of Your Voice. Almost everything I do in my business is divinely guided, and that can come through in a lot of different ways. This particular class, it came through in multiple shower downloads. So if you've been following me for a long time, a lot of times when I receive divine guidance in the shower, I know it is something I'm supposed to pay attention to. And I started putting this class together, and I um I started shifting from the download a little bit. I was in the shower and I just heard so loudly that the name of this class, the intention of this class is the power of your voice. And it feels like it's a calling to bring this class to you because the world is going through so much and it's easy to feel impotent, like we can't make a difference. What could I possibly do? And I don't know that I can do anything about the big issues, but you know what I can do, and you know what you can do? We all have a voice, we all have a presence, we have a heart, we have a spirit. And when we bring our light into the world is made a bit brighter. So this class is going to be experiential. You're going to learn, you're going to connect with your divine self and your divine guidance. And the angels and I are going to cultivate a sacred place for you to connect with your authentic voice, your authentic presence, and discover how you may be guided to share it in the world. You don't have to be the loudest voice in the room. You don't have to have a best-selling book. You don't have to have a presence on social media. You are a presence in and of yourself. You just showing up in the morning is you having an opportunity to use your life, use your light, use your experience, and use your voice in this world, and do so with profound love and compassion and empathy. So let me walk you through some of the elements of this class, again, divinely downloaded from the angels. I'm going to take a breath. So we're going to start with saying yes to God, yes to your calling. You don't even have to know what your calling is. I don't want to make it sound like, through this class, you're going to discover that you are meant to be a fill in the blank, but there is a calling, there is an essence that I think each one of us feels, yes? And often in our community, it's a calling to be of loving service, even if you're not sure what that's going to mean. But in all likelihood, this calling has been with you for a while. And this invitation is an invitation from God. It's an invitation from your soul and your divine team. So this is not based in the ego saying, I'm going to do something super important in the world. And yet, often what happens when this calling is activated within us is we feel like, I think this is going to be big. Like, I think I'm supposed to work with lots of people somehow. And that can feel intimidating because we don't know how to do that. And in my estimation, it's never our job to figure that part out. It's our job to show up. As my husband always says, just show up. So we're going to start off with saying yes to God and yes to your calling. And in that, we're going to begin to wrap in your authentic voice. What has always been true for you? What have you always been? How have you always shown up? What are the core values that are with you every single day? And again, this is not going to be something we're going to work with on the mental level. You and I can make lists upon lists upon lists that our mind creates, and that's not the access point for this. We're going to be going deep within so that you can discover the wisdom of your soul, the guidance of your spirit, and come into deeper alignment and harmony with that. Then we're going to come into a beautiful module, storytelling for light bearers. Now, I'm not talking about fictional stories here, although if part of your calling is to write fiction, awesome. and there's a place for you in this class. But we're going to be talking about telling our stories. So many of my favorite moments on my journey have been influenced by authors and teachers who share of their own journey. There is something sacred that happens when we share snippets of our own life with others because it gives them permission to reflect upon their own journey. In the kind of work that I do, so much of what I teach is based on experience. And so I am always drawing from my own life. Storytelling, I wouldn't have even called it that before this curriculum downloaded for this class, but I share stories from my life all the time, all the time. It's one of my main ways of facilitating and teaching. So you're going to have an opportunity to discover your voice as a storyteller when you share experiences you've had. And I'm going to be sharing with you prompts. I'm going to give you space to help discover this for yourself. It can be oral storytelling. It can be written storytelling. You can tell your story through dance, through art. There's so many different ways you can bring this out. The next thing we're going to move on to is the art of teaching. Now, don't let this get you nervous. You don't have to teach something super important. Teaching is really holding a space for someone to come into their divine wisdom and divine guidance in the way we're going to explore it. I know you have things you can teach. You can teach how to make the best banana bread in the world. You can teach how to grow awesome tomatoes off of your balcony in your apartment. You can teach about forgiveness. You know, there are so many different things we can teach about. And so, how do you teach? And, you know, I was really influenced by a couple of different classes I took. One was I took an amazing class with Doreen Virtue back when she was doing this work called Spiritual Teachers Training. Such an amazing class. It really set me up for illuminating souls. I took this class before I launched my business. And one of the things each one of us had to do is we had to teach, I think it was a 10-minute segment in something. And I remember how nervous we all felt, right? Like, what was I going to teach about? What was my point of view? And then we all had to get up and teach our thing. And it was such a great exercise and invitation. And then the other class I took was what was it called? Soul-Centered Leadership. Sorry, I couldn't find the name right away. Soul-Centered Leadership at the University of Santa Monica. And part of that was getting up and giving a talk for 5 minutes. And for someone like me, that stuff is pretty easy to do. I've always had an easy time speaking to groups, but for other people, it can be terrifying and intimidating. So we're going to talk about the art of teaching and to help you perhaps come into what might you teach about. And listen, teaching doesn't have to be a big 8-week master class in something. People are doing teaching TikToks for in 1 minute. I love those things. And the other thing is in the spiritual community, teaching's a little different. So if I'm going to teach a class on how to prepare financially for your retirement, I really need to have some expertise in that area, right? I should know what I'm talking about. If I'm going to teach about tax code, I should know about tax code. Those are linear forms of teaching. But often in the spiritual community, the things that we're teaching about are spiritual covenants and approaches that we're all still in the process of learning to embody. Yes? Probably right now, you and I and 50 other people watching this video, we could probably all teach a sweet little module about forgiveness. It's not from the place of having mastered forgiveness. I mean, we're going to be working with forgiveness for the rest of our lives. But in all likelihood, you have assimilated teachings and experiences and wisdom that in all likelihood, I can feel and imagine that you have value to bring to the conversation of forgiveness. So could you teach a 5-minute module on forgiveness? My answer would be yes. So we're going to be talking about the art of teaching in this class. Then we're going to move on to creating and holding sacred space. This is a cornerstone of everything that I do. When I was first getting started with illuminating souls, I was really fidgeting over what I should offer and what I should call it. And should I teach this or should I teach that? And the angels came forward and they said, you know, it almost doesn't matter what you teach. What matters is to remember that you are inviting people into a space of transformation and healing. And their transformation has everything to do with them and very little to do with you. They're already on this journey. And to remember that wherever two or more are gathered in God's name, miracles happen. And so if you're on this light bearer's journey, if you have been on your own spiritual, soul-centered journey, I would imagine you already have within you the ability to create and facilitate sacred space. So we're going to walk you through that process. I'm going to teach you a bit about it. If you are having the vision of facilitating a sacred circle, a ritual of some kind, this will really serve you. And then we're going to wrap it up with sharing your light and inspiration. You don't have to commit to a thing, but as we come through the 6 weeks of this class, you'll have an opportunity to attune to how are you guided to share your gifts? Are you guided to share them? What might that look like? What are some of the sparks of inspiration that are fluttering around in your consciousness? This is how I co-create everything. It has to have that spark of inspiration. And then I sort of choose which ones I say yes to, and magic follows. So the angels are really asking me to bring this class forward for you because it's really time for us to step into our power and our voice. So much is happening in the world, and you have value to share, wisdom to share, love to share. And if any part of you has felt intimidated by that, or if you're not sure what that would look like, or how to use your voice, or whatever that is, this class is going to create a sacred, empowering container for you to discover more of who you are and how to use your voice in this world, because you have wonderful, beautiful messages to share, experiences to reflect upon, and a loving heart with which you can hold space for others. It would be my honor and blessing to mentor you and hold space for you as you come into the power of your voice. If you have any questions at all, let me know. I look forward to sharing this with you. Thank you so much.